And we are live. It's another great day for Cribl TV. So appreciate having Chris McNab from AlphaSoc here. How are you doing today?
Very well, Head. Thanks for finding the time to invite me on this and chat with me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, this is really exciting. I've been following your work for quite some time, so it's just really exciting to talk. And I think it is really great to share with a larger audience. What is AlphaSoc? What does AlphaSoc do? How do you help your customers? And I think a big part is you're part of an emerging trend in the security industry to decentralize and decouple monolithic SIM instances. And so I think that's something really important. I think it's just going to have a I think you're at the front of a real trend. So I think it's just so many interesting things to talk about.
Yeah, I'd say first off, actually, I would say AlphaSoc is probably one of the best kept secrets in cyber. And what I mean by that is we've been around for almost 10 years now, working with some very large enterprise, marquee customers and security teams. But we haven't really, it's not like we're heavily venture backed and on this hype kind of train that many other cyber companies seem to be on. So the first thing I'll say is, yeah, we're a bit of a best kept secret, and what we're doing for those teams and why we've been successful for so long, in threat detection and detection engineering, is we're fundamentally a software company that publishes an engine. And if you want to load up our architecture diagram, this basically just describes very quickly what we're up to for those teams. So AlphaSoc fundamentally is a software company. We've been working on improving and refining our analytics engine and our backend Wisdom API that does like live threat intelligence and provides context. And what we're really then doing for security teams is we're providing them with like a sidecar or a threat detection co-processor where they can run raw telemetry from anywhere, whether it's production, cloud workflow, workload logs, so NetFlow, Route 53, and so on in AWS, whether it's SaaS application logs, whether it's identity telemetry, endpoint telemetry from CrowdStrike FDR, whatever the case may be. These customers can load that telemetry into our engine. We then perform all the heavy lifting, the processing. We can enrich, provide a lot of context, and then get, hopefully, low volume, high fidelity, meaningful alerts back to the customer without them needing to, load that data into the SIM. So it really is a threat detection kind of co-processor that we're selling and that we've been very successful with today.
Yeah, and you're not kidding about being low profile but being successful. I mean, I understand. I mean, in terms of being venture backed, are you venture backed at all?
No, so we bootstrapped the company originally back in I think it's like 2016 or so. So yeah, we've been building out the business ever since. Profitable, cash flow positive, which is very rare within cyber, and that really is then testament to the team and the product and the offering, and actually what we've worked so hard to build and then bring to the market, because we have then we've just been we've been busy enough, frankly, working with the large enterprise teams that we do work with today, that we haven't been hyper focused or really too bothered around doing a large go-to-market strategy. So that's starting to change. We'll be at CriblCon. I think we'll talk about that later on in the call. But yeah, excited to take this kind of best kept secret out to the market and hopefully get other teams and detection engineers and practitioners excited about what we're up to and the possibilities.
And this is something you don't hear very often. Cash flow positive, so you're actually running a real business, and you're not venture back. That's almost against the rules.
The holy grail, yes. It's like playing the video game on hard mode, though. I wouldn't recommend. It's not. I wouldn't recommend it for everyone.
Yeah, but it's just frankly amazing, and so it's just it's just amazing you're being able to do this, and so I think this is an example for many. I think it's an example to follow for many. And so I've always appreciated this. And so I really appreciate your architecture. And also and you're focused on delivering value. Customers see value, they keep coming back, they keep growing, and holy cow, you have a business.
Yes. And actually aligning the products with what customers are asking for. So in more recent months, we have a lot of detection engineering, threat hunting teams that we're working with that have been operationalizing like detection as code and Sigma rules. And if you want to go to the Sigma and Cribl.
Sure. And I think I think this is a really great trend as well, because I think detection engineering is hard. A lot of companies really struggle. I mean, even, fairly large companies struggle to have the talent, and to have some to be able to help them to essentially bootstrap their detection engineering, I think is very important.
Yeah, so with Cribl Stream now, if you have a Cribl Stream user, you can basically hook up Cribl Stream to AlphaSoc. We have a solution brief and documentation on both the Cribl side and the AlphaSoc side. It takes a few minutes to click through, and set up the source and the destination. But the idea here with this graphic is, if you already have telemetry coming in through Cribl Stream, whether it's as I mentioned, VPC flow, NetFlow telemetry, whether it's DNS logs, whether it's SaaS application logs from GitHub or 1Password or Slack, endpoint telemetry from SentinelOne, CloudFunnel, or CrowdStrike FDR. I can rattle off all the different sources. If you have telemetry coming through Cribl, you can then send it to the AlphaSoc engine. We then have 700 or so off-the-shelf detections that are kind of field tested and running within enterprise environments already, that we bring, that are known good, powerful detections. And then more importantly, with detection engineering and threat hunting, and where the industry tends to be going on that side, is we allow and empower teams to basically bring their own Sigma rules, drop them into the AlphaSoc engine that's running outside of the SIM. And then, the basic idea here from an elevator pitch standpoint is, again, it's this threat detection co-processor, this sidecar that you can run outside the SIM. And the really cool feature that we have here that others don't have is this ability to bring your own rules with Sigma. And most importantly, we're not a SIM. AlphaSoc isn't a SIM. We're not like a data lake. We're simply hyper focused and optimized around doing threat engineering and detection at scale. And that then is a match made in heaven with Cribl Stream, because you already have the telemetry flowing through. Maybe parts of that telemetry are going to your SIM or whatever, but whatever you have coming through Cribl Stream, you can basically ship off to the engine. And then just very quickly on that topic, in terms of evaluation, POC, kind of kicking the tires and using this. This is free to use for 30 days. So it's you just need to get in touch with us, and we can prototype this out with you. And then also on that topic, we have an on-prem version of the engine as well. So most of our customers run this using our SaaS applicate or our SaaS instance, but it is possible to also run this on-prem if you do have like a FedRAMP or regulated environment that you're looking to deploy this into. But very excited to be partnering with Cribl, and frankly, we already have a number of shared customers with Cribl anyway. So this has worked out very well for us.
Yeah, Stream's an ideal way to do this. I've always loved how, because the data is coming through Stream, you can pick out exactly what you want. You have data that's in scope for each detection, so event by event. You don't have to bombard you with your full VPC flow stream. It's just exactly what you want. So it makes things simpler. You know the data that's there, and this is, I encourage anyone who's already running Stream, try AlphaSoc out, because this is a way that, without any disruption to what you're already doing, you can peel off just the right amount of data to try this out, and it speeds up the trial process. It takes the risk out of it, so you can just find that value without major disruption.
Yes, and for sophisticated teams that have like CI/CD for their detection engineering, kind of detection as code pipelines, we have an API within the engine where you can essentially publish your custom Sigma rules to the engine programmatically, and it will then just start running them. So we've really made it as easy as possible for even the more sophisticated folks to have these kind of like I said, like CI/CD kind of deployment pipelines for detection as code to implement this.
It's really neat, and this is something I see as a part of a bigger trend in the industry. We were at RSA, we were at Black Hat, routinely hearing customers talking about how dissatisfied they were with the SIM process in general, and they're looking for decoupling. They're looking for different sets of options, especially with high volume, low value data, because they just couldn't afford to put those data streams to their SIMs, just frankly too expensive. So I think
Yes.
this opens up a range of options to start applying detection engineering against these data sources that previously you didn't have coverage.
Yeah, and another thing that's always frustrated me, I've been in cyber now, 25 years. Primarily, before AlphaSoc, I was on the consulting side, doing a lot of incident response, forensics work, and it was always, frustrating to me in terms of running a SIM. You mentioned SIM. Of course, we have the indexing cost and the overhead from a licensing standpoint, but in order to get the most out of the SIM, you often need to hook it up to different things. If you have like a Splunk ES or Google SecOps or whatever it is, Microsoft Sentinel, you're going to need to maybe buy a domain tools API key so you can do whois lookups, maybe a virus total, enterprise key so that you can start running things through VT, maybe a gray noise, API. Like there's at least a handful of API integrations and things that you need to purchase. One of the original ideas with AlphaSoc, and one of the things that we've always been very excited about, is the fact that we basically handle all of that for the customer. And what I mean by that, if we can go to that middle slide with the processing layers. So, I mentioned, of course, Sigma and being able to bring your own detections. But what we've always been doing before Sigma and before detection as code is running telemetry. You mentioned, low fidelity, low value, high volume telemetry. That refinement process. This infographic here kind of describes the work that we've always been doing. So we have our own threat intel platform where we're tracking, Cobalt Strike and many other, C2 malware, rat kind of families and categorizing those. We have feature classification where we're doing fuzzy matching, looking for lookalike domains or permutations of brand names, whether it's Microsoft or Cloudflare or whatever the case may be. We have the time series analysis where we're looking for weird timing patterns. And then the one I really want to focus on with this slide is the prevalence scoring, because the way that we've built the system, we then have an understanding ourselves of whether a particular indicator is unique to a customer or not. So a quick example of this would be if you have like badguy123.com that shows up in one customer environment, one AlphaSoc customer environment, but it doesn't show up anywhere else, then we will actually highlight that and use prevalence scoring across tenants to really provide this herd immunity and highlighting function to teams. So the real point of this stack and what we've been successful with historically with our own detections and building out our own heuristics and anomaly detection is solving for patient zero. So we will often see red teams or from time to time nation state threat actors within enterprise environments. And this type of processing, especially around the prevalence scoring, the active fingerprinting, and some of the other work that we're doing, where the indicators aren't yet on threat feeds and nobody knows, that this particular actor has this particular piece of infrastructure set up at this VPS, provider, whatever it is, through the prevalence scoring and the other steps that are on this chart, we're able to solve for patient zero, which is a very difficult problem to solve, especially with high fidelity, right? So it's easy to generate 1,500 alerts a day, and maybe one of them is a nation state, and you then need, and then on the customer side, you mentioned SIM, you then have to basically employ more SOC analysts and tier one people, or spend more money on LLMs, or however you want to triage the tier one, because you're just not getting a clean signal from the system. We've tried to engineer this, and we've been hyper obsessive and focused around giving a clear, high fidelity, low volume signal to customers. So there's two parts to it really. One part is the anomaly detection, patient zero, and this kind of work that we've always been doing. And then the other part is allowing customers to bring their own detections. We support Sigma, and then running all of that outside the SIM is exciting, because if you try to do this kind of processing within the SIM at scale, it would just explode, right? So if you tried to, do, even at AlphaSoc as a quick data point, like we spend thousands of dollars a year on whois credits with whois providers, because every single domain that we see within every customer environment within the telemetry, we're whoising all those domains to figure out, which are young, which are old, and that's just one part of it. We're running things through. We have a commercial partnership with VirusTotal and others where we're able to do much deeper processing that we've always been very, very proud of.
Yeah, I think, and that's really something. This is something I see quite a bit, that outside of large security teams, most teams really struggle to even have the skill set, much less the compute to do these things. And this is, I think, it's where you can, you can be in a medium-sized company, but you lack the skill sets where you can say, hey, I could use something like AlphaSoc for, well, like high volume, typically low value data as a way to start getting more coverage, and essentially fill in the gaps around your own skill sets. And I think this is an ideal way to do that.
Yeah, and the prevalence scoring as well works in other ways. You just reminded me, a quick example of that would be, we look at the performance of detections across customers, across tenants, and we can even see how often things are triggering. So one of the things we're looking to do with Sigma that's not currently in the Sigma rule standard and formats is provide a confidence or a fidelity value for a given rule. And we can do that because we're processing, we're running Sigma at scale across many different enterprises. So what's interesting with that feedback loop and prevalence is we can then start to improve Sigma rule quality, where we say, okay, this particular rule from our perspective, triggers all the time and isn't super. We don't have high confidence when it triggers because it's very noisy. Whereas other Sigma rules, maybe we do have a confidence value or fidelity value of 100, where we say, look, if this thing does trigger, then it's a 5-alarm fire, and you need to take a serious look at it. So the prevalence scoring works in a number of ways. And the reason I mentioned that is you just reminded me of it in that it's not possible for teams working independently in silos to do this kind of work. You'd need to have like an ISAC or a sharing, mechanism to start to think about solving these problems. But one of the very powerful things we're doing is the prevalence scoring, whether it's prevalence scoring of particular indicators, file hashes, command line arguments, domain names, whatever it is, and highlighting those anomalies, looking across tenants. Or if it's prevalence scoring around improving the accuracy of rules. And then on that topic, with democratization and community participation, one thing we've always been very interested in is participating, kind of giving back to the community. So our alignment with Sigma is important. And then the other thing quickly to mention is OCSF. All of the system is using OCSF. All of our alerts we kick out are in OCSF formats, so they hopefully can be easily consumed within a SIM or within some other pipelines. So this democratization that I think Clint has spoken about with OCSF and data lake and some of these other ideas historically is very exciting. And then AlphaSoc and Cribl are clearly aligned.
Right, absolutely. And this is with the idea of open formats. I think it's democratizing data and then making data portable. This is something that's such a struggle in companies, is that you have silos everywhere. Yeah. And so I think you have to get value from your data, and this is something teams just have real trouble getting value from their data. Teams collect a lot of data. Teams store a lot of data. But getting value from it's a real struggle. Like you mentioned, like your ability to now backtest your Sigma rules. You can introduce a rule, and across all your customers start to understand effectiveness. And this is outside of very large companies, you just don't have enough volume of alert generation, enough threat surface to really test something out. And so you're in a fairly unique position to be able to do this.
Yeah, and it's efficient, right? At the end of the day, I think we're trying to get to this place of economy of scale. And what I mean by that is this idea of just getting the telemetry to the AlphaSoc engine, and then AlphaSoc will largely take care of it, right? So we will handle running Whois at scale. We'll handle the VirusTotal and the other API integrations at scale. We'll handle the OCSF normalization. So just trying to take as much of that off of, these security teams are already overworked and under a lot of pressure to deliver anyway. So we're interested in helping them in that regard.
So let's just real quick. So you're like a good place to start. So say I'm a medium-sized shop struggling like everybody. I have a certain amount of coverage with what I consider my high-value data sources. Would you recommend starting on, say, VPC flow logs, like a trial, see how that works, or DNS logs, or
the two obvious ones would be DNS logs. So whether you have DNS logs from your it depends where you're doing your resolution, but right. DNS logs for sure. You're going to get a very big bang for the buck with and a lot of value in terms of an evaluation. The other one would be just endpoint telemetry. So if you have, if you are using CrowdStrike and you have FDR enabled and you have all your FDR telemetry in an S3 bucket, we can then get that in through Cribl Stream, process it and get the OCSF output into the SIM, or if you have Sentinel-1 Cloud Funnel or Elastic or whatever the EDR, or even Defender, even if you have Defender for endpoint using, you have Defender for endpoint telemetry, that stuff you're going to get a lot of value from, because the reason I mention that is because you can, or focus on that, is because you can then just load in all the community Sigma rules. There's like 3,000, 4,000 or so rules for Windows, Mac OS, and these other platforms, and you're immediately going to see, especially within a larger environment, you're immediately going to see kind of interesting stuff occurring that maybe you didn't know about. So it gives you that visibility. So endpoint and DNS would be the two.
All right, that's a great place to start, and I think you're right. I see companies spend an enormous amount of money on endpoint tools, and they have all this data coming off the endpoint tools. But then I always ask, what are you doing with that data? Are you looking at it? Are you just looking at it in terms of IR? Where I always look at it in terms of analytics, because you can find, and as you mentioned, every time you find something interesting, something unexpected, something you just didn't quite understand. That's really tremendous. Hey, this has been I really enjoyed this. I encourage anyone, if you're already a Cribl Stream customer, or if you're not, take a look at our free version. Take a look at how you can start sharing some data into AlphaSoc to try out with their free trial. I've seen this myself too many times. There's just a lot of value, and it's probably one of the easiest solutions that I've ever seen. And so it's just this, I think, can't recommend it enough. And I'm really excited that you're going to be at CriblCon this year. We're going to have a large partner showcase, and so we're really excited to be there with everyone, share options, talk to teams, get feedback, because I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, can't wait for CriblCon. It'd be good to see everyone, and hopefully chat with some existing users, some new prospects, and continue to support teams and fight the good fight.
Absolutely. So I'm going to give some details about CriblCon, and then we will say our last words.
Very good.
So really excited. We're at CriblCon this year, National Harbor, October 13th to 15th. Check with your sales reps. They will have tickets for you. Encourage everyone to be there. We're going to have a full day of training with Cribl University. That's going to be lots of fun. I'll be in several sessions. I'll be leading the federal and state lunch and learn. That's going to be great. Partners, and also we'll be in a couple of talks. So just going to really enjoy it. And also now we have to have my favorite person, Mr. Dupuis, sharing his way of announcing CriblCon. CriblCon! There we go. Thank you, Mike. Well, Chris, thank you for your time. Do you have anything else you wanted to share before we adjourn?
Just that the solution brief has, everything we spoke about is in the solution brief. So if you do, I don't know if you got a link to that, or if users, if you are interested in learning more, just look for the AlphaSoc solution brief on the Cribl website, and that then is a really useful 2-pager. Has all the return on investment statements and all the other bits and pieces. So, but again, thanks for taking the time, Ed. Always a pleasure, and I'll see you in October.
Absolutely, and I hope we can do this again soon. Thank you very much, and for everyone, I hope you have a good